Akilhausen has made an incorrect call. He will have reflected on that over the weekend and been disappointed with what happened. If you think you've seen it, you've seen it. I mean, if you're guessing, then you can't make that decision.
Did he make himself unnaturally bigger? Did he have time to deal with the ball dropping out of the sky? And if the answer to both those questions are yes, why is this not a penalty?
In my opinion, Sam, I think this was a red card. It was a pressure cooker environment. It's ironic, really. When I watch this game, I'm thinking to myself, I'd love to be back. I'd love to be back. I used to love games like that.
Enzo Fernandez's subsequent foul, an example of a player maybe feeling they need to take matters into their own hands because the refereeing decisions beforehand weren't up to what he deemed to be the requisite standard. Is that fair?
No, that's not. That's not in your DNA as a referee.
It was pantomime. In the end, if I was Paul Tierney sitting in the VAR booth, I'd go, do you know what? You're all winding me up. Just crack on.
We've only got 17 laws of the game, and the 18th law, according to Sam Matterface, doesn't come into play in this particular game. When I watched it, I went, I don't understand how people don't think this is a handball offence. You're looking for trouble. Stick with me.
I'm distancing myself from you now after what you've just said. And remember, if you want to go back and listen to the show, then you can do so. Previous episodes, any of our specials, you can find us in the talkSPORT YouTube channel on the Premier League All Access feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Right, let's get going.
Nottingham Forest 0, Manchester United 1, but it's hugely controversial because it's come from a corner that Forest think should not have been awarded because Savona was trying to clear a ball down by the byline and it was ruled to have gone out of play for the corner, and then obviously VAR is not going to get involved in that. So we're watching a replay of that first of all, and it's very, very close indeed.
Nottingham Forest 2, Manchester United 2. Now they say, Chris, lightning doesn't strike twice. But manager Sean Dyche was left angered after Manchester United awarded a corner in the 33rd minute of the game and then scored from it. Akilhausen, 68 metres away, decided that the ball had gone out of play. There was no conclusive evidence that it had. The ball comes in from the corner and Casemiro scores. Sean Dyche, furious, argued it would take 5 seconds for VAR to confirm this decision and see that the ball was still in play and overturn the incorrect call. Do you stand by the fact that VAR's remit should not extend to whether the ball is in or out of the perimeter of the playing surface?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? We know we've got the goal decision system. So when the ball goes in the back of the net and over the goal line, that clearly tells us whether it is a goal or not. Would this make sense? Yes, it probably would, but we can't change the law. We can't change the protocol. Quite clearly in this situation, Akilhausen has made an incorrect call. He's got to own that. He will have reflected on that over the weekend and been disappointed with what happened. I think, there's nothing worse than making a mistake, especially when it's highlighted, so he'll have seen that. I think what's also worth bearing in mind in this situation, had the ball gone out of play, the restart would have been a corner. But look, at the end of the day, the assistant referee's made an incorrect call, and he has to reflect on how he came to that conclusion and learn from it, which is really, really important.
As a referee, you have to trust the judgment of your assistant referees in those circumstances. But 68 metres away, other side of the goal, not the easiest thing to spot at any stage. Listen, assistant referees have got amazing eyesight and a brilliant ability to be able to spot the tiniest little offside. So let's not underestimate their powers. They're very, very good at it, especially the top level ones. But are we thinking that maybe he guessed here, or could he have seen something instead? What's the process that he's gone through?
Well, someone said to me, if you think you've seen it, you've seen it. I mean, referees don't get... I never guessed when I refereed a football match, because if you're guessing, then you can't make that decision. He obviously thinks he's seen the ball cross the line, and quite clearly we know it hasn't. And as I said, it's something that he's got to reflect on and work out why he came to that judgment. And I'm pretty sure over the coming days, when he speaks to his coaches and mentors, he'll understand, a better thing about that. I think the other thing as well is, Sam, we're 99 Premier League games in now, and we've had 2 of these in successive weeks. It's not something that reoccurs throughout the season, but we've got 2, and it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been a corner. We know that.
Yeah, 99 matches and 2 big wrongs. Ahmed Diallo had a problem in the penalty area in the 70th minute where the ball seemed to strike his hand. During a Nottingham Forest corner, the ball was flicked on by Forest's Ryan Yates. In the ensuing scramble inside the penalty area, Manchester United's Diallo attempted to clear the ball. It drops out of the sky. He mistimed his jump. And as he tried to head the ball clear, it made contact with his arm. Now, as the first line in the law states, not every touch, Chris, of a player's hand or arm is an offence. Did he make himself unnaturally bigger? Did he have time to deal with the ball dropping out of the sky? And if the answer to both those questions are yes, why is this not a penalty?
Okay, I think the first thing that's important in this was the ball actually deflected off his shoulder. He's got his arm in a natural position because he's jumping, the ball drops on his arm. He panics a little bit to move his arm out of the way. I think because the ball deflects off the shoulder in the first instance, quite clearly it was checked by the VAR, Tim Robinson. I don't think that's a handball offence. And you know what I say about handball, Sam?
We're in a great place with handball in the Premier League.
That would have been a surprise if a penalty would have been awarded in that situation.
Okay, so you're saying because it comes off his shoulder and then onto his arm, it sort of negates the extended right arm, which is out away from his body. Now, in the case of a sort of deflection, this is not in law. I went back and checked the law last night. That is guidance which the Premier League quite happily sort of adheres to, but not necessarily in Europe. It doesn't deflect off a different part of his body and then onto his arm. In a similar way to Jimenez at City, the Bournemouth defender, on Sunday afternoon. That is a different case where it comes off a different part of the body and he can't get out of the way and his arm's a bit tucked in and whatever. I can understand why that's not given as a penalty. But this one, his arm is already outstretched. It comes off his shoulder and then onto another part of his arm. I mean, I don't think it's a penalty because I think he's twisting away and it's a natural movement. But I can understand why there is a little bit of controversy about it.
Yeah, well, people will talk about handball. Crikey, we've been talking about handball for years and years and years. But because, as I said, it deflects and he's onto his arm, the way he's jumping is a natural way for his arm to be in that position. I don't have a problem with that. And what he actually does, to make it looks worse because he's actually trying to move his arm out of the way because there's a bit of panic in there. But because of the deflection off the shoulder, he's jumping in a natural position. He's making that natural move. I just don't consider that a penalty.
Talk to me through that guidance about deflections off different parts of the body. What is it that the referees are told? Because, as I mentioned earlier, it's not in the law, is it?
No, it's guidance, and I think we have a real sensible approach to handball in this country. So if the ball is deflecting and it changes direction and it hits your arm, I think we've got a sensible approach that's not handball. I think we're looking whether it's deliberate or whether your arm is where it shouldn't be for that one given situation. I think we all know that when your arm is clearly away from your body and you stop the ball, this was different because of the deflection. It negates that. And as I said, I think we've got a real sensible approach to handball within the Premier League.
Okay, Chris, we're getting the T-shirts made. We're doing them in a variety of different colours. Chris Foy, we're in a great place with handball. Right, okay, let's move on.
Referee Jared Gillett was hell-bent on keeping his cards in his pockets, and yet there were still 6 yellows, but 2 of them arguably should have been reds. Bentancur's challenge in the first half on Reece James was naughty. Enzo Fernandez's high one on Palhinha was even worse, and VAR will be under scrutiny again for not upgrading that yellow card.
Tottenham 0, Chelsea 1. Jared Gillett was the referee. Craig Pawson was the VAR. It ended up being quite a spicy London derby, this at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Towards the end of a feisty first half, Rodrigo Bentancur stopped Chelsea's counter-attack with a forceful tackle on Reece James, catching the defender on or above the ankle. The Chelsea captain absolutely furious. Jared Gillett only gives a yellow card. Chelsea were convinced it should have been a red card for serious foul play. The VAR had a look at it, decided that yellow was okay. So you tell me, because the referee's call of yellow card to Bentancur was checked and confirmed by the VAR. The contact deemed to be reckless, not serious foul play. So where's the line between reckless and serious foul play, Chris?
Well, Reckless is a disregard to the danger or consequences, and serious foul play is excessive force endangering the safety of an opponent. And I think in this situation, when Jared Gillett gave the foul, so he's quite clearly seen the incident, he took his time before he issued a yellow card, and he's obviously explained what he's seen, and that's been confirmed by the VAR, Craig Pawson, in this situation. In my opinion, Sam, I think this was a red card. I think he catches him low down on the shin. I think the learning point for me from this one is the arch of his foot was facing the ground, and it's the way he went into the challenge. The point of contact was important, and he follows through and he gets him on top of the boot. I think this should have been a red card for serious foul play. However, there are a number of people who disagree with that. I watched, Ashley Williams, who a former Premier League defender with Swansea and Everton, felt that it was a reckless challenge. But as I said, I think had Bentancur got a red card in this situation, I don't think he could have had too many complaints.
Go back to the sort of guidance or the perceived wisdom amongst referees. Do we sort of judge challenges like this with the force? Obviously, it has to be taken into consideration, but also the demarcation point, that sort of above the ankle, below the ankle. Sometimes it's said to me that if it's above the ankle, it's a red. If it's below the ankle and on the boot, we're going for yellow and reckless. Is that fair?
I think what you've got to bear in mind with challenges like this, Sam, is the speed of the challenge, the intensity, the distance someone is travelling. These are all contributory factors. So you can't just compartmentalise what is and what isn't. You have to judge everything on its own individual merits, because no two incidents are the same in relation to challenges. But as I said, I thought this was a red card.
Did the referee's failure to send off Bentancur in these circumstances contribute to this game becoming more physical?
No, this was a really difficult encounter to referee. It was a really hotly contested London derby, wasn't it? There was no quarter asked, none given. The physicality was in there. It was a pressure cooker environment. People want to win. We know what derby games are like. It's ironic, really. When I watch this game, I'm thinking to myself, I'd love to be back. I'd love to be back. I used to love games like that, but it really keeps you on your mettle, and it energizes you, because anything can happen at any time. It doesn't, whether it's minute 1 or minute 90, you've got to be on your mettle.
There's another big incident in this game. Enzo Fernandez challenged João Palhinha in the 68th minute. Both went for a bouncing ball. Fernandez somewhat lunged in, catching Palhinha around his knee. The contact deemed to be glancing. The yellow card was given by Jared Gillett, and that was stand. There was no VAR explanation because he didn't go for a proper check. Look, Enzo Fernandez's subsequent foul, an example of a player maybe feeling they need to take matters into their own hands because the refereeing decisions beforehand weren't up to what he deemed to be the requisite standard. Is that fair?
No, that's not. That's not in your DNA as a referee. What you're doing is you're controlling the football match through managing the game, giving decisions from the best position you can be in as accurately as you can. And from time to time, you've got to intervene, give free kicks, issue yellow cards and red cards, maybe. It was a strong challenge. Let's make no mistake about it by Enzo. And he does catch Palhinha, I think it is, on the knee, and it's glancing. I don't think this was a red card. It was given on field as a yellow for reckless. Slight contact, Sam. I just don't see this one as red. I think the referees call this one correctly.
Do you think that Jared Gillett handled this occasion well, or do you think that we are lacking the big temperament referees to be able to deal with these huge atmospheres and spicy derbies?
Well, Jared Gillett is an international referee. He operates abroad. He's earned the right for this appointment, like many other referees do. This is never an easy game to referee. We've seen it in the past, where I think Chelsea went down to 9 men a couple of years ago. We saw that, I think it was the Battle of the Bridge, even before that. So this is never going to be an easy game to referee. And it doesn't matter who the referee is. The players are going out there to win this hotly contested London derby. So sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's difficult, and this was a really difficult match to control.
Liverpool 2, Aston Villa 0. Referee Stuart Atwell, VAR Paul Tierney. Potential violent conduct here for Amadou Onana when he grabs Alexis McAllister around the throat. They were preparing to take a corner, Aston Villa, and Liverpool were defending it. There was a bit of a contretemps between the two. Right under the goalposts, Amadou Onana just grabs him round the neck, just right here. Bit of jostling going on. He goes down. Yellow card is given. No violent conduct was the official verdict. Now, violent conduct is when a player uses or attempts to use excessive force or brutality against an opponent when not challenging for the ball, or against a teammate, team official, match official, spectator, or any other person, regardless of whether contact is made. In addition, a player who, when not challenging for the ball, deliberately strikes an opponent or any other person on the head or face with the hand or arm is guilty of violent conduct unless the force used was negligible. This wasn't negligible, so did he get away with it because it was below the neckline?
Well, I have to say, Sam, this was a really, really untidy incident, wasn't it? I mean, you've got the goalkeeper, Marmashvili, who bumps into Onana. Onana's got his hand round on the neck of McAllister. He pushes him. He throws himself into the back of the goal, clutching his face where the contact wasn't made. He gets the players run in. It becomes untidy. The referee has to move in to try and sort it out. McAllister then bumps into Onana, throws himself on the ground again. The referee deals with it. Then we've got a corner and we get a defensive free kick. There is so much going on in this situation. It's virtually unpoliceable at times. And we've talked about holding. We know all about that. But Stuart Atwell has moved in. Onana doesn't throttle McAllister. He gets his hand around his neck and he pushes him to the ground. He's holding his face. And then, of course, when the corner comes in, the referee gives a free kick. And Onana, quite rightly, is cautioned. It's the right decision. He doesn't strike him. He doesn't strangle him. He pushes him. And the contact is not in the face or head. In my opinion, it's negligible. It's untidy. It's people trying to get a decision by overreacting. It was a bit of a mess. And as a referee, sometimes these are really difficult situations to deal with. But I think the referee came out of this well because, as I said, it was so untidy. It was a bit of a mess.
It was pantomime. It was a bit of a pantomime.
I wouldn't disagree with you. I mean, if I put my hand on your neck and pushed you over, the last thing you'd do is hold your face, and to roll around in the back of the goal and then get yourself to your feet and then bump into the player who's done it and then throw yourself on the ground again, and then we've got a tangling at the corner kick. The whole thing's a mess. But I think Stuart Atwell did the best he could in the circumstances. It was a messy situation, that.
I would have sent him off for the hand round the neck thing if he hadn't have then tried to get the player sent off by rolling around and holding his face. I thought it just became a little bit over dramatic. And in the end, if I was Paul Tierney sitting in the VAR booth, I'd go, do you know what? You're all winding me up. Just crack on. I'm not doing anything about it. It's certainly not giving in to the demand for a red card. I wonder whether he felt, though, the VAR, that after reviewing the footage, it was like a push rather than a grab, and that the force was negligible, because he would have had to have looked at it and made a judgment call himself.
Absolutely. I mean, as the VAR, you're checking any potential offence of violent conduct. And in that situation, one-handed, pushes him in the neck and the player's rolling round. Unfortunately, Sam, we can't do it your way. We've only got 17 laws of the game, and the 18th law, according to Sam Matterface, doesn't come into play in this particular game.
Right, let's move on.
Just about to make the announcement, Robert Jones having come over to the monitor, and he is about to tell this West Ham crowd that the penalty will be overturned.
Newcastle 12, clearly touches the ball before contact.
West Ham 3, Newcastle United 1. Rob Jones, the referee. Paul Howard was the VAR here, a relatively new VAR as well. Jared Bowen making a run into the penalty area in the 11th minute of the game and was challenged by defender Malik Chow. Bowen went to ground. The on-field referee, Rob Jones, immediately awarded a penalty to West Ham. The replay showed that the Newcastle defender made contact and played the ball before any subsequent contact with Bowen. The check, though, took over 4 minutes. The penalty was overturned. Drop ball was awarded. After review, the referee overturned the original decision. Paul Howard is only on his 7th gig as VAR this season in the Premier League. Why did it take so long to review this incident?
I think sometimes decisions will take a little bit longer. I was actually listening to this game yesterday on talkSPORT with Alex Crook and Perry Groves, and Perry Groves said, "Oh, it's a penalty. It's a really good decision by the referee." And then he said, "I'm just looking at a replay, and it looks like he's got a toe on the ball." And then Mickey Gray came in and he said, "I think he has got a toe on the ball." So we've gone from great decision, penalty to no penalty. But sometimes decisions do take a little bit of time. And this is the one thing about VAR that's labelled at it. We want it to be faster. We want it to be more accurate. But at the end of the day, even though this took time, it was the correct decision. And it's been in keeping with where we are with these kind of decisions over recent weeks. And albeit it took a little bit of time, I don't think too many people would disagree that it was the right decision. And fair play, to Paul Howard. I think you mentioned it's his 7th game, gone through a selection process, intensive training program, and he got the right call. And don't forget the referee announces it. He's got to look at it. If he felt it was a wrong intervention, he always has the ultimate decision to stay with his on-field decision if needs be. But it was the right call. And I don't think we should be too critical when we get the decision right.
Okay, Kevin Nolan on Premier League All Access overnight said that he thought he could have told you after 3 replays that it definitely wasn't a penalty.
Hang on,
when you
Sam.
get the right,
I've ref Kevin Nolan a lot of times. I know. And when he was playing and he was telling me stuff, I didn't believe him all the time. Let me tell you.
there was obviously the touch. How much of the touch just negates the possible idea of a penalty? We've been having a sort of debate about this season. Is that it now? We're now sort of resetting. For 20 years, the defence of "I got the ball" ref was completely thrown out. The consequence was more important. Now it's like, well, I've got a little touch on the ball, so it can't ever be a penalty.
I think this was a good touch on the ball. You can clearly see that. He just tore the ball away, and I think very difficult, to sit here and say to you that was a penalty when he toes the ball away. I think because you can see it, then you're on, you're not on very solid ground if you think that that's a penalty when he does actually toe the ball away.
So are we now in a really good position with awarding penalty kicks in the Premier League? So that I can get a penalty T-shirt.
You can have a T-shirt for that, Sam. I think where we are at the minute is we're in a really consistent place with what we've seen over recent weeks. And, as what do people say about referees? We want you to be consistent. So if that's the way where we are at the minute, then we can't look for criticism of match officials when they are consistent. And, over the next few weeks, the coming weeks, let's hope that continues. I'm sure it will.
I agree with you. Right, okay, let's move on. Fulham against Wolves next.
It's Agbadou who has been given a straight red by referee John Brooks for a last-man tackle on Josh King, just on the right-hand edge of the penalty area, about 20-odd yards out.
Right, here we are at Craven Cottage. Fulham 3, Wolves 0. Terrible day for Wolverhampton Wanderers. It got really bad when Agbadou was sent off for the denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. But should he have been sent off? Couple of questions here. First of all, was there a handball in the build-up? 36 minutes gone. Josh King gets to a pass ahead of Agbadou, pokes the ball past him, putting himself clear through on goal. Agbadou brings down King, and referee John Brooks shows a straight red card for denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. It was checked by VAR. They did actually look at it properly. We saw the screens come up and everything, but the on-field decision stood. Was there not a handball in the build-up to this? What was your view of the incident?
Well, the first thing about this incident was what we talk about is we want good, solid on-field decision-making, and John Brooks made a really good call on-field. I don't think there's any complaint or worry about that decision. I think it's a really good detection of a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, and quite clearly we have to check, is there an offence in the APP? When you look at it, from a couple of angles, which I had the ability to do at the weekend, you can quite clearly see that the ball strikes King up here in the shoulder area. It's not a handball offence. Obviously checked by Andy Madley. He has to do that. And it's the right call. It does strike him high up. It's shoulder area. And the red card stood, and it's the right decision.
Yeah, APP, attacking phase of play. Just a quick word. Was there not a covering defender coming around the other side that could have got some sort of influence on whether or not it was a goal-scoring opportunity?
You make an interesting point, but when you see it from side on, you actually see that the defender is actually lateral, probably 25 metres away, and actually behind the defender. I don't like using the phrase last man, but he's behind and he's not going to get there. And these are all contributory factors, we know, Sam, with the denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. But, you know, the referee on field makes that call. It's the right call. We know it's checked. It's not handball. And the decision was denial, which was fine.
So there was a possibility here that we could have had a situation where if he hadn't have given that decision on field and given a yellow card, the VAR wouldn't have overturned it because of the presence of that defender?
No, I think we would have seen a visit to the monitor for that one. I do. I think the defender is too far away. He's not going to get there. You know, we know about location of covering defenders. He wouldn't have got there, and that would have we'd have seen a red card. I think that's for definite.
Okay, something a little bit different now. Let's go to Scotland.
A match full of drama. Celtic thought they were ahead through an own goal after 18 minutes. That was chalked off for offside. Johnny Kenny with a wonderful headed goal after 25 minutes put Celtic one ahead. Talo Asgard was sent off. High boot coming into the thigh of Tony Ralston, and that was after 38 minutes. Jack Butland kept Rangers in it, and then Rangers in the second half, well, they rallied. They really took it to Celtic.
Celtic 3, Rangers 1 after extra time. Now, Chris, are you ready for this? Because this was a hot encounter, wasn't it? When is it not? The referee was Nick Walsh. The VAR was Stephen McLean. Let's start with the Asgard red card in the 38th minute for serious foul play. This came at the end of an audacious bit of skill where Asgard is penalised for a high challenge on Anthony Ralston. The Norwegian international flicks the ball up over the top of the defender and then was a little bit late to reach it as the Celtic fullback goes to close him down. The result was the rake of the studs down the upper thigh of Anthony Ralston. Now, obviously, a lot is made of this. I'm not entirely sure how much the contact did hurt Ralston, but he certainly made sure that everyone saw his thigh and he was pitching his shorts up and all that kind of stuff. Now, this happened very, very quickly. That movement where he flicks it over the top of the defender and then tries to challenge for the ball, that is split-second stuff. The referee, Nick Walsh, was very quick to give a red card here. Did he give himself enough thinking time? And could the fact that it was accidental maybe negate the potential red card? What was your feelings on it?
Sometimes you don't need thinking time, Sam. Sometimes you don't need to run a decision back through your mind. You actually judge on what you see. And I thought this was a really, really good decision. I think it's not a good tackle at all. I mean, where he catches him, full studs on the top of the thigh, you can actually see the damage that's being caused. And we shouldn't criticise referees who make really strong positive decisions. And we know that this is a high-octane encounter. Crikey, I wish I'd have had the opportunity to referee one. I really do.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. I would have absolutely loved the opportunity to referee one of these games, but unfortunately that couldn't happen. We shouldn't be critical of the referee in this situation because where he gets him on the thigh, does it endanger his safety? Absolutely. You know, we talk about excessive force. I don't think there'd be too many complaints about this one. It really was an awful challenge. Okay,
red card then. But Austin Trusty didn't get a red card in the 48th minute with a third minute stoppage time in the first 45. The Rangers goalkeeper Jack Butland came out and slid to gather a low ball inside his penalty area after Butland had already secured the ball on the ground. The Celtic player Austin Trusty, who had been chasing the ball, just sort of unnecessarily hung his boot out and kicked Butland in the head. I'm not sure how the VAR has not recommended a review for a red card here, but maybe you can tell me, because Rangers are looking for an explanation, asking the Scottish FA to tell them why it isn't a red. Can you give us any different view as to why it's not the case?
No, I was amazed when this wasn't given as a red card. Quite clearly on field, it was given as a yellow card, a reckless challenge. But I was surprised that the VAR didn't recommend a review for this, because, as you quite rightly say, Jack Butland is in possession of the ball. And Trusty sort of just makes contact with his boot in his head. I mean, it's so avoidable. It's unnecessary. Does it endanger the player's safety? Well, a boot in the head is not the best thing you're going to see on a football field. I was really surprised that a review wasn't recommended. I mean, you'd like to get this decision on field, but if you don't, you would be certainly, as a VAR, thinking, this is clearly and obviously wrong. It's such a dangerous challenge that is endangering, Jack Butland's safety here. I was really, really surprised that a red card wasn't given.
We talked earlier on about the idea of anything above the head being a red card, unless the contact is negligible. But in these circumstances, if a boot is connecting with a head and it looks as if it's been done with a little bit of intent, then that is surely a straight red card. Rangers penalty award, 79th minute. Another incident that has been discussed. JD Gassama took a shot inside the Celtic penalty area. Anthony Ralston sort of flings himself towards the ball in a John Terry-style block. His arm's sort of quite close to his body, but he's falling to the ground. It does strike the arm or the elbow. His arms are relatively tucked in close to his body, but his body movement diving towards the ball means that Nick Walsh, who did hesitate briefly before making the decision, does give a penalty. The question here is, it was an interesting move to block the ball. Is he falling over? Is he actually leaning towards the ball? Is it an unnatural position for the arm to be? And in your view, did the referee get it right?
100% correct. Handball offence. And we talk about sometimes you make a decision quickly. He's rerun that through his mind. What Ralston is doing in this situation, he's actually diving horizontal to block that ball. Now, I've been reading overnight, this is a decision that is going to massively, massively divide opinion, let me tell you. This will run and run. But the fact he dives horizontally and his arm is hanging down, his elbow's at a point, sort of a V-shaped point where the ball strikes him, and he blocks the ball with his arm. And the referee on field gives that decision, and I fully support this decision. It's checked by the VAR and not overturned, and quite rightly so. I mean, if you cast your mind back, Sam, to the first Monday of the season at Leeds Everton, with James Tarkowski. You knew it was coming. Where we talk about Tarkowski moves and blocks, albeit his arm was by his side, he moves and blocks the ball.
And that's deemed to be a deliberate act, is it? So what we're saying here is that Ralston, by putting himself in that position where he's diving with his arms just a little bit away from his body, it doesn't matter how far they are, because he's trying to make his body as big as possible to block this shot. And that's what you think means it's handball.
Yeah, because he's diving and he's virtually horizontal, his arm is not by his side. His arm is down and it's his elbow that's pointing to the ground, and it strikes him just above there. So he's blocked the ball with his arm, given on field. When I actually read about this before I watched it, and people were going, it can't be a handball. And when I watched it, I went, I don't understand how people don't think this is a handball offence. It's a clear handball.
Some people will be saying that he's using his arm to sort of break his fall. He's got to have his arms away from his body, and you're allowed to do that, right? You're allowed to break your fall with your arms, and if it hits you on the hand, then, like if you slide in and your arm's behind you or whatever, and it hits your trailing arm, we don't give a penalty for that because you're deemed to be supporting your body weight. Is there not an argument that he was doing that?
No, because his hand was up, it was elbow that was pointing to the ground, and that's where the ball struck him. And it's a clear, and he knows exactly what, the player knows exactly what he's doing, and then he decides to turn away. You can tell the player knows it's handball. The referee gives the decision. He shouldn't be criticised, but let me tell you, north of the border, Sam, this is good. This will run and run, let me tell you, but I'm not being critical of the ref here.
Well, why aren't you being critical of the referee? Because he didn't give a caution. He should have done, shouldn't he? No, it's not a mandatory cautionable offence, that now. It changed a couple of years ago. So he's right on both counts. If he's blocking a shot that's going to a goal, how is that not a yellow card? Because it's what's determined as a non-deliberate handball offence, that one.
So it's a change in law. 20.
But if he deliberately leant into the ball and changed his body position to stop it, then that is deliberate, no?
You're looking for trouble. You're looking for trouble there, Sam. Just let's just remember that it's not a mandatory handball offence. So stick with me.
I'm distancing myself from you now after what you've just said, because you're going to have the whole of Scotland coming after you one way or another.
You're right. I'm looking out the window thinking I can't please all the people all the time, can I?
Cheers, Chris. Thank you very much. That's Premier League referee Chris Foy joining us to talk about all of the decisions every single week in the Premier League and this week in the Scottish League Cup semi-final as well. Thank you very much for joining us. Remember, you can go back and watch previous episodes on the Premier League All Access feed, talkSPORT YouTube channel. You can download the podcast as well if you want to be genned up fully with all the knowledge and know exactly why we're in a great place with handball in the Premier League, according to Chris Foy. We'll be back next week to analyse even bigger decisions, I'm sure, from Men in Black and talkSPORT. Have a good rest of the week.